Good evening, everyone. My name is Paget Vaughn. I'm one of the program managers for Heart Math Tutoring, and on behalf of the entire team, I want to thank you all for joining this evening. It means so much to our team to have you here and to get to share what we're learning and to make sure that you know your part now and in the future to help students build the early math skills and the academic enthusiasm that they'll need for long-term success. One piece of housekeeping, you can submit comments along the bottom of the YouTube page. We will either answer them as they come in during our question and answer section, or we will reach out to you separately. We will have a Q&A section, as I mentioned, with our Executive Director, Emily Gaffney, and our Board Chair, Peter Daniel. I'll be moderating and bouncing you around from different members of our leadership team. If anything goes wrong technically, our speakers are planning to either dial in on their phones or we've got other backup plans, so just bear with us. Without further delay, Heart's Executive Director, Emily Gaffney, and Board Chair Peter Daniel are going to kick off the program.
Thank you for joining us tonight. As Paget said, I'm Heart's Board Chair and have served as a board member since 2014, with some time as our fundraising chair and also tutoring with my wife, Patricia. On behalf of the board and staff, thank you to each of you for being part of the program and for being here tonight with us. It's been a real privilege to be part of the organization from the ground up. I think we were in 2 schools with 100 students when Emily recruited me. And you all, our tutors and donors, just finished serving over almost 1,200 students across 23 schools this year. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we've never been in this moment before, with the activities virtually halted by COVID-19 for the past few months, and with the recent killings of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor once again putting the inequities that exist in our society on full display. As a Black man with 2 college sons at home right now, I've been overwhelmed with a range of emotions, including anger, sadness, and frustration. And as board chair, I want our staff, tutors, donors, and the communities we serve to understand the importance of open and honest dialogue around these issues, and that Heart is squarely focused on doing its best to be a resource during these challenging times and a small part of the long-term solution. Moving on to a more positive note, we're here today to thank you so much for a great year and report back on the funding and the time you have invested in the organization. For everyone listening, if you spent time in the schools, if you gave the funds to make the program happen, if you're a parent of one of our students supporting your child's education at home, if you're a partner who has supported our staff for our program in any way, you've made a tremendous impact, and we want to thank you.
I want to echo Peter's thanks as well. Thank you so much to everybody on this call, at this event, for what you do for Heart Tutoring students. For those who I haven't met personally, I'm Emily Gaffney, the Executive Director of Heart Tutoring. So I have the fantastic job of getting to work with our staff and our board to pull off our mission and in partnership with all of you. And the mission is to ensure all elementary students develop the strong foundation in math and enthusiasm for academics that they need for long-term success by helping schools use volunteers as tutors. At Heart, we really believe in the power of our community. This has been a really tough week. Our team is deeply saddened by all the events surrounding the death of George Floyd and others, and also COVID-19 for the last couple of months. One thing that's really important for our team that we want you to know is that we stand in true solidarity with everyone who's experienced injustice, and we want to extend our support to the community in this time. The psychological consequences of what's happening in the last few weeks and the last few months are going to hit the communities that we serve especially hard. 93% of our students are people of color, and our program focuses on children who wouldn't be able to afford the tutoring services elsewhere. So this means our students are sitting at the intersection of race and class. We are not claiming that Heart is a silver bullet solution to the problems in our community. It's really a small part, but we do think it's an important piece of the puzzle and a step in the right direction. The amount of social emotional support and positive encouragement that the students are going to need when they come back this fall is greater than ever. And that makes that part of a volunteer tutor's role all the more important as well. So again, we believe in the power of our community. We believe the community collectively has the resources needed to take care of each other. Civic engagement is actually one of the core values at our organization, and we see it in action all the time. This year, 1,300 volunteers went to the elementary schools every week to help students through Heart Math tutoring. Donors have given over $5 million so far since the organization's inception for extra tutoring resources for the school system and for children that can't afford tutoring elsewhere. That's great news. So you'll see more pictures of our tutors and hear from our program director, Cydney Kramer, tonight. And you'll hear more about the generosity of our funding partners and donors from our Director of Donor Engagement, Sally Dudley. At Heart, we also believe in the potential of our students. We have, so the combination of really strong math instruction with a tutor's encouragement has been producing outstanding outcomes for kids. We actually have some updated results that we are excited to share tonight from data that we've been collecting over the past 5 years. So, you know, this doesn't feel like a celebratory time in our community, but we do hope to be a source of hope. Tonight's really a chance to thank you and to report back and to encourage you to continue the important part that you play in the success of Heart tutoring students. So I'm going to kick us off with why we're all here, which is to make a difference for students. So we're going to look at some program results. You guys know that you're doing a good job, and that's why you tutor and donate. One of the key points today is not just that you're doing a good job, but that you're doing a really good job. We could do an entire virtual event about this, and we might one day, but for now, I just want to share the headlines. So our program's main measure of success is in growing students' math skills are the pre and post assessments we give to students each year. The pre-assessment tells us students' individual gaps and what concepts they should be working on in Heart. We give the same assessment at the end of the year to measure the growth. So at this point, we now have 9 years of pre and post assessment data where students are consistently making the progress on the foundational skills that the curriculum addresses. 98% have met goals, and the goals were set with help from UNC Charlotte and CMS math specialists. Even this year was on track based on the notebooks passed and all the data points that we could collect through March. So great work. And of course, we also want students to do well in math on the state standardized tests. So the measures of math proficiency that the principals and teachers are held accountable to and that track students into middle school math levels. So those are called the North Carolina end of grade tests, the EOGs. We now have 5 years of data, and that's all the years that we've tracked, showing that Heart students start behind their peers on the end of grade tests, but they grow at faster rates than their peers during the year that they served, which is exactly what we're trying to do. What's most exciting today is that we now have enough years of data to look at statistically significant impacts of students after they've completed the program. Our team organized 6 years of data so that we could see the cumulative effects. And again, students are initially nominated for the program because they are performing below grade level and they're falling behind their peers in class. One of the things that our program would hope to see is that we're closing the gaps between Heart and non-Heart students and lasting into years after the program. And the results we found recently were encouraging. So you can see it on the screen there, but students who participated in Heart during 1st and 2nd grade, by 3rd grade, were on par with their non-Heart peers. So eliminating the gaps from when they were nominated for the program as 1st graders. So that is awesome. Another thing that we found in the data is that students who do well in Heart's program, and specifically the ones that are making about 60 points of growth or more between the pre and the post assessments, those students also close the gaps with their non-Heart student peers the year after the program on the end of grade tests as 4th and 5th graders. We are just now large enough to have enough data points to look at the statistical significance, thanks to a lot of you listening now that helped grow the program to be at this point. So this is a huge deal, and it took years of consistency by the program team and great work by tutors to be able to have these findings. We'll definitely keep you posted as we get more information and move forward with taking this to a third-party study. So this is a lot to celebrate. We're going to hear next from Heart's program director, Cydney Kramer. Cydney's been leading our program operations and the people making these results happen for the last 4 years. So let's hear what this looks like in the schools.
Thank you, Emily. We are so proud of our students and tutors and the progress that they made through March. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to share some of the stats from the program year this past year. As of March, 92% of HEART students had passed at least one curriculum notebook, and 49% had finished two curriculum notebook levels or more, which is on par with prior years. Teacher feedback was positive this year, and I wanted to share one quote from Ms. Hurton at Shamrock Gardens Elementary that shared that 2 of her scholars who participated in HEART grew over 20 points on their math map assessment from fall to winter, which is on par and reflects a year's worth of growth that those students made. I get to spend my time working with school principals and overseeing the program operations. We have incredibly strong principal partners across our 23 schools, and I wanted you to hear a few words from Principal Gray at Hidden Valley Elementary.
Hello, my name is Daniel Gray, and I'm the proud principal of Hidden Valley Elementary School. I wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the tutors, donors, and community stakeholders who've helped bring HEART Math to Hidden Valley. HEART Math has helped our students in several ways, but the one that stands out most is the positive relationships our students have been able to build with their tutors. Watching our kids' faces when their tutor time comes so that they can exchange the hugs, the smiles, the laughs, and it's amazing to see. Our kids look so forward to that time for the learning, but also for those relationships. Secondly, when I look at the student data and the improvement that our kids have made through HEART Math, it truly is astounding. HEART Math has helped build our students into better mathematicians, but also better scholars overall. We appreciate all the time and effort that everyone has put in to help our students become better. So from the bottom of my heart, from Hidden Valley Elementary School and from our students, simply thank you. Thank you for having a heart to help.
Principals have been shaping our program over the years, and they've been meeting with us since schools closed, giving advice and information while we have been updating our model. It has been inspiring to see them leading their schools and teachers through this unprecedented time. We know it probably has felt like a lifetime ago since we were in schools working with students, and you might want to know, what have we been doing and what has been happening since March? Staff switched gears and made different resources that were not part of the plan before. Based on what our schools and principals were asking for, we have created HEART at Home resources with math games that can be played at home with objects that can be found around the house. We also ramped up our end-of-year take-home math kits to include extra games and manipulatives for students to play with over the summer. Coordinators delivered those to schools last week, including the cards that volunteers wrote for their students. Our families page on our website is being updated to include all of our resources that we've shared and created, and we plan to continue adding resources and videos for families and students to use during the summer and upcoming school year as well. I wanted to share a few examples of how our tutors have been creatively supporting our students over the past few months. Tutors wrote notes to their students to be included in their end-of-year packets. We loved seeing these creative and fun ways our tutors were encouraging our students to play their math games over the summer, and I know how excited they will be to get these cards. We asked some of our tutors to send videos of them playing some of the take-home math games that we would be able to share with teachers and families, and this one included even a very special guest, Mickey Mouse himself. In addition to supporting math at home, tutors have really stepped up to help support food drives for the Rama and Brun school community and others. We have awesome tutors, and we are so grateful for your support. As we close out this school year, I wanted to take a moment to celebrate each one of you who spent 30 minutes or an hour a week with our students. The backbone of HEART is our volunteers, and we could not do this program without you. As HEART continues to serve more students at schools and CMS, it is exciting to see and bring new faces into the schools to volunteer with HEART. Thank you to the 718 tutors who joined HEART as tutors for the first time this year. Thank you for choosing to tutor with HEART. We would also like to recognize our 127 volunteers who have tutored with us for 3 years. Their names can be seen on the screen. Thank you so much to all of them for their commitment to HEART. We have 115 tutors celebrating 5 or more years with Heart, including 62 who just completed their 5th year of tutoring, and you can see their names on their screen. Congratulations to all of them. Heart Math Tutoring was incorporated 7 years ago, but 3 years prior to that, volunteers and partners began piloting the program. We have a very special group of tutors who have hit their 10th year of volunteering. With deep appreciation, our team is honored to thank Lisa Warren, Reed Leggett, Martha Eubank, Minna Elliott, Margaret Marshall, and Catherine Fisher for the impact they have had working with over 120 students over the past 10 years. I would now like to pass it along to our Director of Donor Engagement, Sally Dudley.
Thanks, Cydney, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Our partnerships with organizations throughout the community play a vital role in making this program possible. Volunteer partners engage their employees, students, or members to help as tutors in the schools and help secure more than 1,300 volunteers for Charlotte Elementary students this year. Thank you to all of these organizations. Lead funders, Albemarle Foundation, the Leon Levine Foundation, and Project Lift each provided funding of at least $100,000. And 9 organizations supported Heart students at our school sponsorship level with gifts or grants between $30,000 and $100,000. Thank you, Barings, Belk Foundation, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Faison Enterprises, C.D. Spangler Foundation, Bright House, Charlotte Mecklenburg Community Foundation, and the Giles Foundation for being school sponsors for the 2019-20 school year. I wish I could recognize all of the amazing partnerships that have supported Heart this year, but in the interest of time, I'll just share a few highlights from some of our school sponsors who also provide volunteers. Heart Tutoring's board chair and chair of the Community Relations Committee, pictured here, are both Wells Fargo team members, deepening the impact of Wells Fargo's 58 volunteer tutors and their financial sponsorship of the program at Billingsville Elementary. Albemarle Foundation, a lead funder of Heart Tutoring, began its new volunteer partnership this year with 12 tutors, primarily supporting Huntingtown Farms Elementary, and is in year 2 of a 5-year partnership and funding commitment focused on economic mobility efforts. Through employee resource groups and dedicated internal efforts, Bank of America grew engagement by 50% this year, with over 130 team members volunteering as Heart tutors. And I got to work closely on this one, and this is also part of a 5-year commitment focused on economic mobility as well. 25 Barings associates are so dedicated to Heart students that they organized a carpool to and from tutoring so that more employees could volunteer at Behringer Academic Center, complementing the company's financial impact there as a school sponsor. And Barings has been a funding and volunteer partner since 2017. Thank you to all of these partners. As the Director of Donor Engagement, I want to say a big thank you to all organizations, foundations, and individuals who give so generously to provide the resources needed to support students. In addition to grants, in fiscal year 19, individuals contributed $265,000 to offer the program to this year's students. Nearly half of the 301 individual donors were also Heart tutors. 33 individuals secured a matching donation through their employer and doubled their impact with gifts of almost $20,000. Thank you for taking this extra step to support our students. 47 donors each sponsored a student with weekly tutoring with a gift of $1,000, and 9 sponsored a grade level or 10 students with a donation of $10,000 or more. The names of all of our donors are listed in the annual report on our website. Thank you so much for your support. We also want to thank our board members for their work this year. We are so fortunate to have such a strong and committed group who help across all areas of our operations and do so much to support us in securing the resources we need for the program. Thank you to all of our donors for your generous support of this year's program. The time you've spent tutoring or the financial support you've given sends a powerful message to our students that they are important, that their education matters, and that they matter in the world. Thank you for sending that important message, for sending it through heart, and for making the program possible. And now I will turn it back over to Paget.
Thank you. And congratulations to everyone on a great year. And thank you again to our tutors and donors for making all of this possible. We feel that being good stewards of your time and your funding means reporting back on your investment and keeping you informed. So at this point, I want to be joined again by Heart's Executive Director, Emily Gaffney, and Heart's Board Chair, Peter Daniel, for a question and answer session. So welcome back. So Peter and Emily, I have some questions here about what it's like to be on the board during COVID-19, messages you have for volunteers and donors, and our growth plans. But let's start with a question that's pretty timely right now. Do you have anything else that you want to add to the comments you made at the beginning about the recent events around George Floyd and issues of race that our nation's dealing with right now?
Sure. Thank you, Paget. I'll go ahead and start. I mean, the one thing I'll add is, perhaps one of the most frustrating things about the situation is that, it's not new. This is a recurring theme, and the only difference is really the evolution and velocity of social media that's brought this to our living rooms with increasing frequency. So this isn't the first time, Hart is thinking about, talking about race. I think anybody who's involved in any organization has a responsibility to make sure that discussion is happening. So, from Hart's perspective, staff have been undergoing a variety of formal and informal efforts to increase diversity and inclusion awareness. This is now reported at the board level at every meeting, and the board approved resources and funds for formal training for the staff last December, and that'll continue into future years. As mentioned before, I think the recent events that have happened, as well as the disproportionate impact and fatalities that COVID-19 has had on communities of color, reemphasize the importance of having open and honest conversations about the racial inequities and social injustices in our society. And if Hart's going to continue to fulfill its mission in the communities we serve, it's important that we as an organization are authentic around these issues so that we can ultimately reflect the constituencies we serve, both in terms of empathy and diversity.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll just add to that. We actually shared in a newsletter to tutors earlier this month in the monthly announcement email about some of the more formal steps that staff have taken recently in the way of education and reflection. And I want to add that I'm really proud of our team and thankful for our staff for a lot of growth that we've had together. I've seen team members, we've asked questions, we've shared, we've engaged, and not only in the whole group sessions of the formal trainings, but also in one-on-one conversations and in personal reading and reflection. I know that we're prioritizing discussions on diversity and race on a regular basis, and I'm seeing the topics pop up in a lot of different department meetings and leadership team meetings. And this is all part of our growth mindset core value, and knowing that through open and honest conversations and commitment, and with engaging the head and the heart, we can really all build greater understanding.
Yeah, Emily, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what, if any, changes that we're currently thinking about making to the program in light of COVID-19.
Yes, so as you all know, the entire program is volunteers delivering tutoring to elementary students in person. So for a few months now, we've been planning for the possibility that volunteers won't want to return to schools, or schools will not allow volunteers to enter the facilities for health-related reasons. And the reality is that schools are also planning for a wide range of scenarios. I mean, there's the possibility that facilities remain closed, or that schools need to open at lower capacities with social distancing, or be prepared for intermittent closures depending on what happens with the virus. mean, the level of uncertainty is amazing. But considering all of this and just continuing to watch what's happening in the news, we all decided we definitely need to be able to take the program virtual, and that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you talk a little bit about how you're thinking the virtual program could work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that lots of tutors are looking forward to seeing their students again, and particularly would have loved to be in schools in person. So if the virtual, it may just be another tough reality of COVID-19, but I know we're going to make the best of it, and I definitely know our students need it. So yeah, I feel good about some of the options that are coming around. So at this point, we're currently thinking about having teams of volunteers working in pairs. So two volunteers delivering tutoring to students for each 30-minute sessions. We're thinking this structure is the best for students and tutors because it ensures a safe environment for the students. I'm also hoping that one unintentional benefit is just some additional flexibility for tutors to be able to provide instruction from their own homes or their offices.
That sounds like a great idea. I know we've had a lot of great feedback from principals, and we're excited that they've been willing to continue engaging on how the different formats could look, and they've just stressed how important the volunteer-student relationship really is. I know we've heard about great results from the existing program. How do you think the virtual program would be able to achieve similar results?
Yeah, so in terms of results, I think we really need to, number one, ensure that the math instruction we provide is going to be effective virtually. And number two, we really need to rely on our volunteers' amazing ability to build positive relationships with students. Those are the two magic ingredients. For those who don't know, our math instruction is driven by assessments that were written by Kathy Richardson, and it's hands-on and game-based. The consistency of the results and the impacts that we are seeing that we went over earlier, and even on the standardized test assessments, they're in thanks to Kathy Richardson's understanding of how children learn math concepts. So we think many of the games and other activities should be equally effective in a virtual setting, but we've also been spending the last couple of weeks talking with math educators across the country, including Kathy Richardson's company called Math Perspectives. We've talked to private schools, home schools, really any resources we can find to see how they're transferring those concrete math experiences to a virtual setting. We're confident that we'll be able to modify the existing instructions so that it'll be effective at this point. And the second really important thing that this program brings to accomplish the outcomes is the relationships and encouragements that's coming from volunteers. There's no doubt that the ability to develop relationships virtually is not the same as developing them in person, but we are hoping and feeling confident that having two volunteers providing double the encouragement and support and attention could offset some of the benefit that's lost from not being in person. And I know, so ever since the early days, Peter's been using the metaphor that we've been building the plane while we're flying it. And that's definitely more true than ever now. We haven't worked out all the details yet. It's only June, but I'm really thankful for Cydney and the program team for all the innovations and the open mind that you guys are bringing to your work. And I feel very confident that the result of all this is going to be fantastic. And also for people out there listening, if you have ideas or resources, please reach out. Our email addresses are on the website. We're definitely scouring all the best sources to come up with a really strong model for next year.
Yeah, I know I've been really fortunate to be part of the team that's testing some of the curriculum and assessments virtually over the computer screen, and it's been surprisingly fun and engaging. So I'm excited to keep working on that. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about your experience serving as a board chair during COVID-19?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's, such a difficult time in so many ways. And I know it's been a challenge for all organizations, all people. The one thing I'd like to say is I'm extremely grateful for, a super engaged board and frankly, a world-class staff. One thing we've done, frankly, is just increase communication frequency. We actually already had a board meeting scheduled for April 6th, which was early innings of this whole thing. So it was great timing to level set and update, our strategy. And at that point, we made the call to add another full board meeting to the calendar, just given all the uncertainty and rapidly changing information that all took place in early May. So in addition to that, Emily and I set up weekly meeting time with no specific agenda, just to stay connected and responsive as issues arise. The board's been very engaged in monitoring and evaluating some of the COVID-19 relief fund opportunities in the early stages of budgeting for the upcoming year. So overall, I think the board's done a great job working together collaboratively and leveraging each member's individual areas of expertise and perspective really on the fly, as a lot of curveballs, have come our way, just given the situation.
You mentioned the budget, Peter. So how is the board thinking about liquidity and financials right now?
Yeah, look, that's obviously one of the biggest fiduciary responsibilities and functions of the board. And, we always spend a lot of time on it, and we spent, a ton of time on it recently. I think we're fortunate in that we've always taken a very conservative approach to fundraising and budgeting to ensure that we don't grow the program beyond our means. We've done this by raising funds by June 30th before we actually spend it the next fiscal year. And this gives us visibility into how many school sites we can support the upcoming school year. We're extremely fortunate, given the timing of COVID-19 means that we had a lot of funding in place for a large portion of the 2020 and 21 school year already. But I will say this also means, the crisis is going to hit us harder in a lag. Funding we've lost during this quarter and the upcoming fiscal year could slow the impact in the 2021 and 22 school years. So to our funders listening to this, we are in good fiscal shape right now, which we're thankful for, and opted not to take emergency funding. But it's going to hit us with a delay that could slow our growth later. So we'd ask that you continue to support the program in fiscal 21. So July this year through June of 2021, as long as it's feasible. From a budgeting standpoint, one thing the board's very committed to doing is preserving our most important assets to emerge strong at the end of this crisis. And what that really means is retaining and reallocating our team. Emily and all of the staff have been working proactively together to evolve the culture to the new size to continue to be extremely effective. Looking towards the end of this, we want to be in a position of strength and continue to grow and scale the program coming out of the other side. Lastly, I'll say the board will review a budget in July that'll prioritize student impact, staff retention, and some of the progress we've been making on diversity and inclusion. We'll also be ready to be flexible and nimble as these times demand. We already review financials regularly, but certainly have a greater expectation than usual of the need to adjust the plans as we move through this.
Thanks, Peter.
Sure.
So our team members, particularly program coordinators who are typically based at the schools, overseeing volunteers, they have expressed such a huge level of flexibility and commitment. And I know that other program managers and I have just been really inspired to see how dedicated they are to students and how willing they are to adapt to what's going to serve them best, knowing that we are going to be needing connection and academic progress more than ever when we come out of this. So Emily, speaking of the budget, as of February, we were trying to grow the number of schools for the upcoming year. So can you talk a little bit about what the growth plans are at this point?
Sure. Yeah, that's right. As of February, we were raising money and talking to a lot of schools with plans to grow from 23 school partners this year to 27 in 2021. There in Charlotte, there are about 100 elementary schools, and we think the program would be a good fit for about half of them. So we were geared up to continue growing just in terms of working towards that plan to scale. But that's not going to happen this fall. This is not the year to grow, just looking at the level of uncertainty in the schools and also in the economy. So our goal at this point is to maintain the same number of students that we served last year. So around 1,190 students across 23 schools.
So are we still thinking about growing to new cities at some point?
Yes. Actually, as of March, we had exchanged a couple of visits with some community representatives in Charleston, South Carolina. We do think the model would work in other cities, and we're not aware of other math tutoring programs like this. So we've been preparing our program to be able to share it and export it. The volunteers need to hear a really good compliment from the visitors from Charleston. They sent several math experts to see if the program met their standards and visited a couple of school sites. So you may have seen these visitors come, and they were just blown away by the quality of the tutors. Specifically, they said, how did you guys get the tutors to not give the students the answers? They were saying the students had a lot of space to think and to struggle and to talk through and correct their own work. And in math, we call that productive struggle. So the math specialists that had visited were really impressed, and I just wanted to pass that along.
Great, thanks so much. So Emily, what would you say to volunteers about next steps for the upcoming school year?
Yes, next steps. So well, first of all, thank you so much for everything that you did this past year. Yeah, again, as we meet with principals, we have asked them a lot of different formats for next year. And no matter what ideas we throw at them, they just come back to the importance of the relationship between volunteers and students and having such a high quality tutor pool. So thank you. So the next step is to sign up next year. We do need you back next year. Look at hearttutoring.org and sign up. So I hope you've heard during this program and feel comfortable that your safety is very important. And so what we're organizing is virtual options. Plan to potentially be working in teams, and we also just check your email. We're trying to be really efficient. We don't want to overload you with information or specifics that we don't even know ourselves yet, but do stay tuned, check your email, put your name back in the sign up form, and we definitely want to match you with students again this fall.
Great, so to our tutors, stay with us, check your email, and be ready to work in teams and be prepared for some remote options. Peter, can you talk about the opportunities or needs that you see ahead for donors?
Sure. Look, first and foremost, again, thank you. The mission wouldn't be possible without all of you. I'll say many of our large sponsors have proactively reached out to us to reallocate, to the general operating funds. One foundation even accelerated their grant cycle by 6 months, which gave, provided much needed visibility and positive news in the midst of, all of this uncertainty. We also sent out a mailing list last week to ask people to renew their support for June 30th of this year for those who donated in fiscal year 19, but not yet this year. And additionally, I'd say modifying the program could require capital in the form of technology and software, and that could result in unforeseen costs if we move to a model where staff are delivering in-person tutoring. So please keep us in your philanthropic plans. But also know that, we're here for you too. This is a super difficult time for people. And if you can't give now, we understand that. And we want to keep the long-term relationship with you and be a source of comfort as needed. All of you, everything you do are the reasons the program is accomplishing what it is. And will be a big part of the efforts going forward in whatever capacity you have to contribute. So again, thank you. We appreciate you.
Great. So to donors, stay with us. Know that we're here for you too. There's one other question that I saw pop up that I want to address a little bit, and that is related to whether if we're working in teams of 2, we'll be able to reach the same number of students. And one thing I'd like to say is that we are hopeful that with that one benefit of remote tutoring is the diminishing of drive time, the diminishing of setup and preparation that was required before when we were driving to the schools. We're hopeful that volunteers might have more time that they can dedicate to the actual tutoring if those other barriers are removed. So we're hopeful that we can galvanize our current force to serve even more students. And knowing that this might even open up the possibility to have tutors who were too far away from a school before to now commit to working with students. So we are really hopeful that a safe format with 2 people will provide double the encouragement and maybe even be able to reach more students than before. But that's a great question, and we appreciate you thinking about the reach and scope of the program, as so many students are going to need it more than ever after this year.
And if you're on the Community Relations Committee or if you were in any of the focus groups this spring, we're going to be calling you back to test out some ideas on you.
So Emily, is there anything else that you'd like to close with before we wrap up the program?
Sure, yeah. Student-centered is our #1 core value. So let's close out with just thinking about our students. It's one of my favorite parts of the job is to be working one-on-one with kids. You really see how they're thinking and watch them develop. One of the things that we teach our students is the power of yet. So, just because you haven't learned something yet or haven't accomplished something yet doesn't mean you won't do that in the future. And that's something that I want to remind all of us tonight on this call. We have not accomplished our mission yet. HEART serves a fraction of children who need help, but I'm excited for the future. A setback like COVID-19 only makes us more determined to keep going and to keep doing what we can to help students catch up and have opportunities and possibilities in their lives. So definitely want to say we are so honored and thankful that you're giving your time and resources through Heart Math Tutoring to the students in Charlotte. I wish I could see you and talk with every one of you, but please accept this program as a heartfelt thank you from our whole team.
I echo that, and thank you to Peter and to Emily. I think this was a really productive event, and I know that the time with students is my favorite part about this role. Same with, I think most of us that are here. And I'm typically at a handful of school sites each week with the rest of the program manager team, and we miss those school visits. We miss seeing the coordinators and the students and the tutors and staff at schools. So we want to end with students and have them have the last word in this program. So as we transition to the video, thank you again for tuning in and for everything that you're doing to help ensure students in Charlotte are encouraged and learning what they need.
3 words to describe your tutor.
She's funny, she's happy, and she's really fun.
Something about my tutor is that addition is subtraction and solve problems.
Happy, exciting, and fun. Fun, exciting, and joyful.
And 2 words to describe tutoring.
Fun and special.
Fun, and it makes you learn new things.
She's smart, she's kind.
It helps you learn more things, and how it helps you get to shortcuts to the main number.
She's nice and she helps me learn.
And 1 word to describe Heart.
Helpful.
You can always go to Heart Math because the people there care and they're very